So I think what I'll do is we're a couple minutes after the hour. I'm going to let people continue to join in, but we might as well get the session started, and then we can proceed for there. So I'll just give you an overview of how we'll proceed. Each of the program directors for our 6 graduate programs is present. I'll allow them to narrate over their slide sessions for 5 minutes just to give you a taste. At the end of that session, I will set up individual breakout rooms so that if you want, you can jump in with one of our individual program directors, ask some additional questions. You're free to move in and out of those sessions as well. So pretty straightforward. So with that, I'll introduce myself. I'm Dr. Rich Dearborn. I'm the chair of the Department of Pharmaceutical Sciences here at Albany College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences. I'm delighted and would like to thank Dr. Gallagher for reaching out and inviting us to speak with you today about some of our graduate programs and opportunities. And it'll be up to you to determine whether or not these programs are fits for your future career goals. And that's what we're hopeful to do. We all train students, doesn't matter where we are. We derive the most pleasure and success in our careers in seeing our students move on to successful postgraduate careers. So with that, I'm just going to take the programs in alphabetical order. Program directors, if you wouldn't mind, as I bring up your program, just introducing yourself very briefly and the program, and then just remind me to hit next slide for you as I drive the bus. So with that, I'm going to pull up our first presentation. And Julian, you are up.
Great. Thanks again for organizing this. So my name is Julian Rosenberg. I'm the Associate Director of CBET, the Center for Biopharmaceutical Education and Training. I'm also the Program Director for our new Professional Science Master's degree program in Biomanufacturing and Bioprocessing. So I wanted to share an overview of this PSM program, as we call it. And the degree is meant to prepare students to make an impact in the biopharmaceutical industry. I'll also describe a little bit of our new center. And this program resides in our center. Both the program and the center are brand new initiatives at ACPHS, and they don't quite fit the mold of some of the more traditional academic programs because the focus here is really on manufacturing, bioprocessing, and the biopharmaceutical industry, which in addition to biology, cell biology, molecular biology, also requires principles of engineering. So my background is in chemical engineering, and all of my research has really been focused on biotechnology. You may know that biotechnology relies on a wide variety of disciplines to create new products using biology, just like the vaccines and antibody-based therapies that we're seeing now for COVID. So it's a very exciting and important time to contribute to the biopharmaceutical industry. So Rich, you can move on to the next slide. Thank you. As I said, I wanted to give a brief overview of CBET, a little context for our center. We are located at the Nanotech complex, which was the building you saw on the first slide, which is just about 10 minutes from ACPHS. And at the center, we focus on 3 major activities under the umbrella of workforce development for the biopharmaceutical industry. So we offer short courses for industries that are already in the biopharma industry and seek to learn about new technologies and new processes. We call these our workforce development programs. We're also able to perform research for companies to help them move their products forward. So that's under our contract research arm. And of course, we offer this new professional science master's degree program. So it's very much embedded in the center, and it's a really exciting place to be because you have the opportunity to rub shoulders with people who are actually in the biopharma industry and gain exposure to research that's happening at the interface of industry and academia. So CBET is the first center of its kind in New York State. It's the only one to be based in a pharmacy school, which is unique. And CBET and the PSM degree program really leverage ACPHS's foundation in pharmacy to provide new opportunities to manufacture biopharmaceuticals. Next slide. So the PSM is a one-year fast-track master's program that does not focus on research or a thesis, but instead offers a paid internship program. And as you can see here, the list of our courses, they really span both upstream and downstream bioprocessing involved in the whole manufacturing process for biopharmaceuticals. So upstream being growing cells and microorganisms from mammalian cells, and downstream extracting and purifying those pharmaceutical products from those cells. The program also incorporates a heavy amount of regulatory affairs, quality assurance, and quality control throughout all of these courses, and we have courses that focus on those. So as I mentioned, a real cornerstone of the PSM program is this summer internship program. It's coupled with a capstone project, so that is 4 credit and a mentored project that is meant to do under the guidance of both a faculty member at ACPHS and a mentor at the company. And this internship is a very integral part of the PSM degree, really to help build relationships in industry and set students up for successful careers in biopharma. Next slide. I'll be real quick on these. I'm not sure how I'm doing on time. Rich, I'm sure you'll let me know. This is our upstream. Okay, this is our upstream lab. I won't go into detail. All of this is listed on our website, but in the upstream lab, you can see the bioreactors, the glass vessels where we grow the cells. Next slide. Downstream lab is more bioanalytical, focusing on, as I said, extracting, purifying protein from these cell slurries. Next slide. In terms of candidates that would really have value from this program, and what we would look for in candidates for the program, we see three major demographics. Of course, undergraduates or recent graduates with background in life sciences or engineering, seeking a competitive edge in biopharma industry are very well suited for the program. As a pharmacy college, early career pharmacists also may be looking for a career transition and want to have more to do with manufacturing the drugs than just administering them. And then, of course, the flexibility of the program also lends itself to working biopharma professionals. So with these different demographics, the program is also a unique opportunity for classmates to network with each other. There will be people from many different walks of life. Next slide. This is just a snapshot of what courses we have offered right now this semester. Many of these are new courses, or actually all of these are new courses at ACPHS. And the interdisciplinary nature of the program is really reflected in the course contributions, as you can see, from different departments, different faculty members, both existing ACPHS faculty and some of the new faculty at CBET, like myself, Dr. Hassan Medinia, our operations manager, Umu Diallo, the director of our center, Dr. Kamal Rashid, all have backgrounds in biomanufacturing and bioengineering. So that's probably just about my time, if not overtime.
Yeah, we're good. Julian, thank you. For all of us on this meeting, all of these slide decks and of course the recordings are available, so you'll be able to get in contact with our program directors, even if you do not attend or cannot attend any of the breakout sessions. So next up, hold on. There we go, my PowerPoint. Betsy, you will be up next.
Yep. So hi, I am Betsy Brookins, Dr. Betsy Brookins. I am the Director of Pre-Professional Pathways at ACPHS and the Program Director for our new Master's in Biomedical Sciences program, which is the other one-year master's degree that we just launched this past January. So we have our first class in it, just like Julian mentioned, with the PSM. So I just want to say, first off, it is a post-bac program. So I will use those terms interchangeably. And this program is really designed for a student that is committed to a career in health professions. And ours is open to pre-med, pre-PA, health professions that really want to take advanced coursework and essentially prove their academic ability in a rigorous master's program. Next slide, Rich. So just to give you guys a little bit of background about our program. So we are a health science focused institution. You will find that out as you listen to all of the presentations today. And there is a growing focus on the pre-professional pathways at ACPHS. So this, along with all of our clinically relevant classes that we have at the graduate level, really kind of spurred us on to develop this post-bac program. And our post-bac program not only helps students academically prepare because it is an academic record enhancer, where students want to strengthen their application and get to their desired health profession. But we also have a focus on infectious disease and training the whole person into a great practitioner. So that is really what our goals are for the program. But in addition to that, we have some other unique features. I'll show you on the next slide, our curriculum. We do have a formal curriculum that includes infectious disease focused courses. Oh, I do want to go back.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. We also have bioselective course, and we allow students to choose their own project and their own advisor for their capstone thesis. So in our program, again, it's a one-year program. It is focused on didactic, so lecture-based courses, but they do end it with a capstone. Built in, not into the curriculum, but into the program, we have specially designed workshops to help the pre-health profession students. So we talk about everything from building the best application of them to how do they get to letters of recommendation, interviews, and the ever important personal statement writing. We really go through that step by step to make sure that each and every student applies when they're ready and with the best application of them. Another thing that we have built into the program is MCAT prep. So within the classes, students are going to be preparing for the MCAT or other entrance exams for the health profession schools. But we do have a Kaplan MCAT prep course built into the tuition. So students don't have to pay for this on top. It is built in and it is a feature of our program. And we offer that different times of the year depending on when students are going to be taking the MCAT. We also have 2 linkage programs with medical schools. So these are additional opportunities for students to get direct entry through these guaranteed interview programs. One with Albany Medical College, which is directly across the street from our institution, and with New York Institute of Technology, College of Osteopathic Medicine, which has 2 campuses, one in Long Island and one in Arkansas. The other thing that I also want to mention is our location. So we are located between 2 hospitals. So we have 2 hospitals right across the street from us and a 3rd major hospital right down the road. So we also have those opportunities for students to get volunteer and clinical experience while they are a student at ACPHS. Rich, next slide. So here is what our curriculum looks like. Students will take 6 classes in both the fall and the spring, and you'll see that there is a formal curriculum. There are certain classes that they have to take. One of those classes is Journal Club, but there is also some flexibility in there. So students that already come in with immunology have the ability to take the graduate level immunology or an innate immunology course. We also have a bioselective that students can choose from anything from genetics and molecular basis of disease to public health micro to clinical microbiology. So students have that ability to pick and choose a little bit of their curriculum. And also what you'll notice in the fall and the spring, there are also non-science courses. So in the fall, there's an intercultural communication. In the spring is a healthcare and human values class. Next slide. So if you want to hit it again so everything comes up. So I'm not going to go through this, but you can see our admissions requirements. There is an update. Our application for the postbac, we are extending until May 1st. And the reason why we're doing that is we are putting on an information session on April 15th. So we want to give students time that come to that information session to be able to apply for the fall start date. But you can see that our program requires the traditional pre-med classes, and then a few beyond that, the microbiology and the additional English classes. And that's really to keep these students' options open for whatever health profession they want to go into. And then next slide. And then I just put my contact information. Anyone that knows me knows that I can talk about pre-professions and health professions for hours. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me and we can talk more specifics about the program. But thanks again for having us.
Thanks, Betsy. And
Thank you.
that's why it's always dangerous to put program directors in front of any audience without some sort of time limit on there. So very good. I appreciate that. Mohammed, you are on deck.
Sure. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Mohammed Kolagji. I'm the program director for Clinical Laboratory Sciences. As we go along, I'm going to talk more about this degree, Clinical Laboratory Science field in general, and then I'll make it more special for the degree. Next slide, please. So the Clinical Laboratory Sciences, it's one of the hidden healthcare professions. These are what we call the troops behind the scenes. Sometimes we joke, actually, recently started joking, that's the saying that took a pandemic for the public to know more about the clinical laboratory technologist. Because we all really, not everybody knows about their clinical laboratory technologists, but know about their nurses, about their physician, PA, they know everybody except for the people who usually contribute to their diagnosis, basically. And the diagnosis is a very critical step in the diagnosis, treatment, and also monitoring. As you can see, almost 7 billion diagnostic laboratory tests done every year, which is an integral part of the treatment plan, as you can see. 70 to 80% of all diagnostic decisions are based on lab tests. A physician will make all he or she can to figure out what exactly going on with the patient. However, they cannot make a confirmed diagnosis or exclude a diagnosis unless they get laboratory tests. And that's where the laboratory professionals usually comes along. And that's our profession, basically. We teach our technologists. With the degree, after graduates, the graduate from the program, our students, they work in the hospitals. That's the main work area in the clinical laboratories in the hospital, medical centers. They can be also in reference laboratories, physician offices, and or they can be in research as an avenue for their career. Basically, clinical laboratory technologists can work, perform tests on various body fluids, all of them, blood, urine, stool, spinal fluid, all this we do testing on. That's a little bit different what Jenna is going to talk to you in the cytology, which is going to be basically in tissues and cells. Next slide, please. This is the setting for our students when they are in our lab. They can be working on daily experiments in the clinical science. Every course that we have is mainly the clinical courses. There is a theory portion to it, but then also the lab portion, which we usually have a very close contact with our students, a very close relationship, because we work almost one-on-one in some cases, so they can learn the technique, a competency that they need to acquire. Next, please. Again, we pride ourselves at Albany College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences in our program that we do have state-of-the-art machines. So in addition to teaching our students all the basic experiments and how to perform an experiment and actual procedure, we also expose them to various machines or instruments, that clinical instruments that they can run tests and validate results. Like in this case, we see one of past graduates working on hematology analyzer, where we performed complete blood count, as you know, for white blood cells, red blood cells, hemoglobin, hematocrit, and so on. Next, please. Again, we work with our students. This is one of our faculty, Dr. Lansing. He's an MD, and he he's in our program as well as the cytology program to help our students with their clinical experience. Next, please. For the program, Master in Clinical Laboratory Sciences, this program is 2 years in length, start with only in the fall. As you can see, there is a fall and spring for each year. So we have go 4 semesters, fall, spring, fall, spring. The summer is usually, we do not require our students to do anything, but they can do some of the research or for their capstone project. In order to get into the program, we require to have basic science, basically 1 year of germ biology, 1 year of genetic chemistry, organic chemistry, one course, and anatomy and physiology 1 and 2, in addition to biochemistry with lab. So basic entrance to science master degree, that's what we require. And then in the first year, mainly it's going to be clinical courses with the associate labs with them, in addition to some graduate courses to fulfill the graduate degree. The second year, however, is going to be mainly in the clinic, in the hospitals, medical centers that we have affiliation with. We have over 10 affiliations with our medical centers, where our students rotate through their clinical laboratories. So 4 days a week, Tuesday through Friday, the students will be there for as a full-time from 7:30 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon, performing clinical laboratory tests with the technologists under supervision of technologists. There is a capstone mini thesis for the graduate degree, which something we talk to our students from the first semester. Next, please. A lot of questions will come up. What the outcomes of getting into a master's degree in clinical laboratory sciences? This program based on as an entry level to the profession. This program will lead our graduates to be eligible to sit for the board exam, a national board exam by a national agency, American Society of Clinical Pathology. That's everybody has to go through that exam. We pride ourselves with the data that we have, the data that we report to our accredited agency, 100 pass rate with our degree for the last 3 years that we reported to NACLS. Also, by passing the national exam, the board exam, our graduate basically, they can work in the laboratory as a clinical laboratory technologist. We do have 100% job placement. Actually, our graduates, they get like 3-4 job offers even before they graduate. The field is so in need for technologists, and they welcome in our students. They can work also. The advantage for master degree is basically the graduate of master degree, they can be eligible for transition into senior position like supervisor or manager, or they can proceed to be in a PhD program if they looking forward to that. Next. If you are more interested about the program, we have our YouTube channel for master degree in clinical laboratory sciences. You're welcome to review it, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions through our breakout rooms.
Mohammed, thank you so much.
Absolutely, thank you.
Right, and my apologies if you feel as though I'm keeping this train a little bit too much on schedule, but that's my job. Jenna, you will be up.
Thank you. You're doing a great job of keeping us on track, because I think all of us could probably talk for hours about what it is we do. Very passionate about our professions and programs. So I am Jenna LeBlanc. I am the program director for the Masters in Cytotechnology and Molecular Cytology. And again, please feel free to ask me any questions during the breakout or contact me later on with anything about the program or profession. So go ahead and move to the next, Rich. Thank you. So the main question I get is, if you saw this and were thinking, what is cytotechnology? You are not alone. Because we are more of a behind the scenes profession. So just like clinical laboratory scientists, we do work more in the lab and we're behind the scenes. So no one really knows their local cytotechnologist. And because, you see your doctor when you go to get a test performed, and then that doctor sends your specimen off, some sort of magic happens and your doctor now has a result. And the cytotechnology lab is where some of that magic happens. So we fall under the Clinical Laboratory Sciences, but we are a separate profession, a separate program, a separate board exam to be nationally certified and licensure in particular states. And I'll talk about that a little later. So getting back to what is cytotechnology. So cyto stands for cells. So we're basically using a light microscope to detect and interpret cellular changes that help determine a patient's diagnosis. So if you give me cells, a stain, and a microscope, I can give you a diagnosis, and a pretty specific diagnosis, which is what I always found very interesting about our field. Specimens that we would be looking at, there's the gynecologic aspect of cytotechnology, that would be pap smears and anything from the female genital tract, and then non-gynecologic specimens, so that's everywhere else in the body. So I always joke, you know, if you can get cells out of it, again, I can give you a diagnosis, and I've seen everything from lung to liver, pancreas, breast, thyroid, salivary gland coming through the door. I've even seen eye fluid. So again, if you can pull cells out of it, I can give you a diagnosis. And what are we diagnosing? It ranges from benign normal, infections, autoimmune diseases, atypical and precancerous lesions, and then full-blown malignancy or cancer. And it's not just good enough, as I'm sure you all know, to say cancer. That doesn't help anybody. So we get down to the specific type of cancer. We can even tell if it's a primary cancer or disease of that area and organ, or whether it's metastatic. And of course, this is going to ultimately and directly impact patient care. Other responsibilities and things that are done in the lab by cytotechs, we go on a media adequacy assessment. This was one of my favorite parts of the job. Of course, screening and using the microscope is definitely one of the favorite parts. Love diagnosing, and you definitely have to like microscopy to be a cytotechnologist. But some of the cool things that we're doing is, so this is me off to the right of this slide at my little cyto cart, and we wheel this cyto cart around to various departments in the hospital. And so we're right there in the room with the clinician, with the patient, as a procedure such as a fine needle aspiration biopsy is being performed. So they're pulling out cells right then and there. They hand off the needle to us. We make a smear. We stain it with a rapid stain, and we look at it right then and there and tell the clinician, yes, you've hit the lesion. We've got enough material to take back to the lab and do a full workup, or nope, you got to go back in and give us some more sample for us to be able to really work this up and get down to that specific diagnosis that the patient deserves. So again, we're behind the scenes, but we are an integral and significant part of the diagnostic team. Pathologists really count on us, so we're the first set of eyes on those slides to give a diagnosis, and then we'll sit down with the pathologist. I'll say my diagnosis, the pathologist will say their diagnosis. If we disagree, we duke it out at the microscope a little bit until we come up with that final diagnosis for the patient. You can move on to the next, Rich, thanks. So just to give you a little taste of what a cytotechnologist might look at, so all of these samples are coming from the lung. It was an EBUS FNA, so an endoscopic bronchial ultrasound guided FNA. And a lot of what we do is cancer diagnostics, but as I mentioned before, we can diagnose various infections, autoimmune diseases. So up at the top left, that's aspergillus of the lung. It's a fungal infection. That's followed off to the right by small cell carcinoma, and then down to the left is adenocarcinoma of the lung. So these are two different types of lung cancer. So I know everybody always says lung cancer, but that's a very big umbrella term, and I can't count on two hands how many different types there are. And we, as cytotechs, just by looking at the cells, can get a pretty specific diagnosis. And then I gave an example of metastatic colonic adenocarcinoma, which commonly metastasizes to both the liver and the lungs. And again, just by looking at the cells, we can say, hey, this is cancer, it's the specific type of cancer, and whether it's a primary or metastatic potentially. All right, ready for the next. Thanks. So to talk a little bit about the program, it is a condensed 1.5 years for this program. So it's 5 consecutive semesters. So it runs fall, spring, first summer session. That would be when the students are on campus getting all of their training. The second summer session marks the first clinical rotation, as you can see here. And then the second fall semester marks the second clinical rotation. So the first rotation is a little shorter than the second. We have over 40 clinical affiliates for the program, so the student really gets to pick where they'd like to go. And ideally, I like students to rotate at 2 different locations because that's going to give them a very well-rounded experience because labs do everything differently. So it gives a nice picture of different environments of the laboratory. So we too are a capstone project, and there's 4 components to that. Some highlights are the students do a case study and submit it to a national cytotechnology society. And also there's a paper component, and students get to pick their topic for that paper as well. Next. And then a little bit about life after ACPHS. So like the CLS program, we too are nationally certified, and students have to take the board exam through the ASCP. And again, that makes you nationally certified as a cytotechnologist, and we've had 100% first-time pass rate on that for over 10 years now. This exam counts towards New York State licensure. So for both CLS and Cyto, you have to be licensed in order to work in this state. And I think there's like 17 states that require specific licensure. So that test that you took to be nationally certified counts as the licensure test. Basically is filling out some paperwork and some additional fees to get your license because we are an accredited and accepted program. Also, because of the molecular component to the curriculum, you are eligible to sit for the molecular biology certification as well. Currently, job market is excellent. We have 100% placement rate, and students, graduates, start within 2 weeks to 2 months. Typically, within 2 months, students are starting their jobs because usually they get offered jobs before the program ends. So we say knock their socks off on clinical rotations, because if there's a job opening, it's going to you. But again, 100% placement rate for that. And I think that's it. So thank you. I appreciate it for the opportunity. And again, feel free to ask questions.
Thank you so much. So we've heard about a number of non-thesis programs. We have 2 thesis programs as well that we'd like to have our program directors discuss with you. So Meenakshi, you are up first.
Thank you, Rich. So I'm Meenakshi Malik. I'm the program director of Molecular Biosciences program. So up until now, you heard about our applied programs that have a very specific outcome, clinical or industrial. We are, in the Molecular Biosciences, a more traditional research-based 2-year program. And Molecular Biosciences program, it provides you a broad foundational coursework in disciplines like cell biology and molecular biology. And then we kind of branch out, and the faculty are more focused on infectious disease research. As Rich just said, we are a research-intensive program. We do have a capstone option available as well for some specific students who might want to do an industrial co-op for a semester or a clinical lab kind of an experience. But generally speaking, most of our students are in thesis research program. Our graduates are primarily looking to apply for competitive PhD programs. Some of our graduates do go on to join the industry as well, but primarily the focus of the program is to train them to go on for a PhD program. Next slide, please. So, of course, our program, because the focus of the program is so much based on research, we make sure that our students get sufficient opportunities to present their research, their own original research. And of course, a lot of our students come out with co-authored publications. It could be a first co-author, it could be a co-author if they join the project in the middle, but most of our graduate students from the Molecular Biosciences programs have published papers out of research labs. These are just some of the pictures of our past students attending national and international meetings, being co-authors in the publications. Our students have applied for national fellowships as well and have received them in the past. And they become very, very competitive for top-notch PhD programs. And a lot of our students are in a variety of different PhD programs like UNC Chapel Hill, like SUNY Stony Brook, UMass Worcester, Tufts, University of Georgia. These are just some of the places that I can recollect on the top of my head. Next slide, please. We do offer industrial internship and co-op opportunities as well for some of our capstone students. However, Julian has already told you about a new offering of masters in biomanufacturing and bioprocessing. And if students are very specifically interested in the industry, they generally would go in that particular career pathway. But some of our students are interested to pursue industrial research, not really academic research. For those kinds of students who want to go into the R&D in future and maybe even get a PhD and then go into the industry and do R&D, like vaccine manufacturing or drug development, any of those things, then we provide them with a huge network opportunity, a variety of different opportunities for them to come in contact with a lot of our industrial partners, especially because of the CBET, the newly found center. We have a lot of connections with the industry, like Regeneron, like Eli Lilly. They come on campus, they give network sessions, they provide them with info. Some of them do on-campus interviews for our students, for internships and full-time jobs. So these are just some of our students, and that on your right is Dr. Dearborn and myself visiting one of our students who was doing an internship at Eli Lilly in Indianapolis. So that's our forever in perpetuity picture. Next slide, please. I am not going to go into the details of all of our research faculty, but we have a very, very strong research faculty group. Again, as I keep saying and repeating myself, it is a research-focused program, and the focus of our research group of faculty is on infectious diseases primarily. Some of us are NIH funded. We have postdocs in our lab, graduate students, undergraduates. We have faculty members primarily divided into a couple of different areas. We have a bacteria group primarily working on antibiotic resistance mechanisms. My own research is on biodefense pathogens. I've been funded by NIH for the last, I would say, 12 years or so on this specific bioterror agent called Francisella tularensis that I work on. This is Dr. Tim LaRocca. He also has been NIH funded for the last 6 to 7 years, and he works specifically on programmed cell death. This is our antibiotic resistant group, and Dr. Michelle Perrin, Dr. Nicole Shakerly, Dr. Pradeepa Jayachandran, they all are bacteriologists, all working on different bacterial pathogens, but essentially focusing either on antioxidant defense mechanisms or specifically on antibiotic resistant mechanisms. The next group of faculty members, these are our virologists, and Dr. John Sharifi and Dr. Binchanchi both are HIV researchers, and they both work on different aspects of HIV pathogenesis. Next slide, please. Dr. Veer Singh, Dr. Eric Yeager, these two are also virologists. Dr. Singh works on HIV pathogenesis. Dr. Yeager works on influenza and various aspects of aging and inflammation during flu infection. Dr. Ehsan Medina is our latest entry into this group of industrial faculty members, along with Dr. Julian Rosenberg. And Dr. Medina is working in CBET. He's an industrial microbiologist. And so, of course, if a student is specifically interested in industrial microbiology, they can go work with him on a capstone or a thesis research project. I think that's some of, just to give you an idea of the flavor of kinds of research programs that our faculty have. Program outcomes, as I told you already, our students have been extremely successful in going out into top-notch PhD programs. I named some of them over here. A lot of them are employed in the biopharmaceutical industry. I know there was a question in the chat as well about the biopharma companies in the area. Regeneron is a huge one. It's expanding like anything. Recently, they've now opened up a new fill and finish center, and they have 800 positions now that they're advertising. So there's no dearth of biopharma company jobs here in the area. And of course, some of our students continue on to go on to medical or dental schools as well. I think that's it. And I'd be happy to answer any questions about the program. And thank you so much for inviting us.
Thank you, Meenakshi. We have one last program in Pharmaceutical Sciences. Dr. Jeff Voigt will step up to the plate to talk to you a little bit about our MS in Pharmaceutical Sciences. Jeff?
Thank you, Rich. The MSPS program, as we call it, is actually the oldest of the graduate programs on campus here at ACPHS. Go ahead and go to the next slide, Rich. Thanks. For those of you who aren't quite sure exactly what pharmaceutical sciences really is, very broad-based group of disciplines. We pretty much deal with all aspects of drug development, drug testing. Some of us try to identify targets for new drug development by studying signaling pathways within cells and try to identify specific molecules that could be targeted with a drug. And then our chemist would then go ahead and try to design new drugs that would attack those targets. And our pharmaceutics folks would then try to formulate those new drugs into products that could be administered. And we would then have to test those drugs to make sure they're doing what we expect them to do and try to detect any toxicities that might come from those drugs. So it's quite a broad-based discipline in terms of the different types of science that one can get involved in a program such as the MS program that we're speaking of here. Go ahead, Rich. As Meenakshi said, it's our program is a 2-year program, total of 33 credits. Like the Molecular Biosciences program, most of our students are interested in the thesis option, which for our program includes a total of 10 credits. 10 out of those 33 credits are really research credits, and then the rest of those are didactic credits. We do have similar internship opportunities in the final semester of the program at the same places that Meenakshi talked about, Regeneron and Eli Lilly. Go ahead, Rich. So the objectives of our program really are to help students really get down on the skills that are going to be useful in just about any profession that you go into: good written and oral communication skills, scientific reasoning and critical thinking skills. During your thesis project, you're going to be generating data, and you've got to be able to think about that data, critically analyze that data, and then be able to write a thesis that encompasses all the information that you found and comes to the conclusions that are warranted by the information that you've collected. So during your thesis project, you're going to develop a pretty significant amount of expertise in that particular area in which you've been working. You will be working with a faculty member in a lab that's really part of a lab-based research team. So you're contributing to the overall goals, but you've got your own little slice of the pie to focus on to develop those skills and generate that data. We also tend to push publication of research results in a public peer-reviewed journal and try to encourage people to present their data at research conferences. Go ahead, Rich. Our program outcomes really are focused on either industry or PhD programs. Probably 2/3 of our students wind up working in some aspect of the pharmaceutical industry, and the other 1/3 go on to PhD programs. We have had probably a handful of students over the years that have gone on to medical school for the most part. But really our focus is on as students are interested in either employment in pharmaceutical industry or PhD programs. Go ahead, Rich. We've got a pretty diverse group of faculty that participate in our programs, ranging from drug discovery programs where people are actually synthesizing drugs. You've got faculty working on drugs to treat macular degeneration, other faculty working on drugs that could be used to treat psoriasis, a couple of faculty working on different aspects of cancer research, signal transduction pathway, estrogen-resistant breast cancer, again, trying to identify targets that could be likely targets for drug development down the road. We've got a faculty member who works on cannabinoids and looking at the cannabinoids with respect to blood-brain barrier function, pharmacogenomics, cytochrome P450s is a group of enzymes that are involved in drug metabolism. And there's lots of genetic differences among individuals, particularly in this group of cytochrome P450s, which could affect how well drugs work in different individuals. One person may metabolize that drug much faster than another person, and as a result may either get too much of a therapeutic benefit or not enough of a therapeutic benefit, depending upon the drug. So that's a very active area of research there in terms of those P450 isozymes. We've got faculty who study pharmacokinetics or distribution of drugs in the body. What's the best way to get those drugs distributed around the body? And how can we determine where the drugs within the body are distributed once they're administered to that individual patient? And then lastly, we've got some faculty working in epigenetics, which is really the regulation of DNA function and gene expression through histone protein regulation, looking at different proteins that interact and be able to regulate which genes are actively being expressed and which genes are turned off. And so, again, a wide range of faculty interests to go along with the diverse different aspects of the pharmaceutical sciences. So I would encourage you to check out the program. It's a lot of fun working in the lab. We get a lot done and have a good time doing it. So I think that's kind of the best of both worlds. And I think that's it for me. Again, my name is Jeff Voigt, Master's Program in Pharmaceutical Sciences. My email address is here, and I guess I'm the last to go. So Rich, you can take us away to the breakout rooms.